Hi everyone, welcome to a Beer with Brad bonus episode. I'll get to the bonus episode in just a minute, but first let's talk about tonight's beer. So for tonight's beer, we're going all the way across the state of Nebraska to Scotts Bluff and Flyover Brewing Company. Tonight I'm enjoying a Rusty Rivet Brown Ale, and brown ales are just a real nice, they're easy drinking beer. They're not nearly as heavy as the dark color would lead some people on to believe, but just a great, nice, flavorful beer. Flyover Brewing Company has been around since the spring of 2018, and I have not been there yet. I tried a few years ago. It was probably 2018 or late 2018 or late 2019. Just my schedule didn't allow with their brewery hours, but I'm going to get back out there because that part of the state is beautiful. I love photographing out in western Nebraska, so definitely on my to-do list. So Rusty Rivet from Flyover Brewing Company in Scotts Bluff, Nebraska. So I'm doing a special bonus episode. As most of you know, for the last 25 months, I have put out a Beer with Brad on the first Thursday of every month. I usually talk about a beer like I just did, and then go into some sort of photography subject. Well, tonight there's going to be no photography. Tonight I'm going to go over and break down my opinion of Sarah Baker Hansen's beer bracket. For those of you who don't know, Sarah Baker Hansen is Omaha's most well-known food critic, and the last few years she's done to coincide with March Madness, done a bracket. The first year was a pizza bracket, the second year was a burger bracket, maybe flipped around there, and then this year, the third year, is a beer bracket. And since you all know that I drink a lot of beer, try a lot of beers, I figured it'd be great for me to kind of put my opinion to some of these and let you know what I'm thinking my winners would be. So, my opinions might differ with other people's, and I'm not trying to say that mine's right and anyone else is wrong, but it just give you my thoughts on her bracket. So, SarahBakerHansen.com is the website. Click on the beer bracket, and if you go down to the bottom of the beer bracket, there's also, if you are interested in the pizza bracket or the cheeseburger bracket, they're both on there at the bottom. And also, just to tell you, it was last year, the burger bracket, Stella's won, and I'm totally on board with that. And then the pizza bracket, Mangia Italiana won, so I'm also on board with that. So I really like the winners of the past 2 years, so it'll be interesting to see if I agree with the winners of this year. Sarah's broken this down into four groups: the Omaha region, the Capital region, which is Lincoln, eastern Nebraska, and western Nebraska. There's a couple that are a little bit outside of the area, but when you're trying to get an even 16 seeds, it's a little hard to kind of break it down where everyone is perfectly in their region. But there's a couple that I'll point out why I would like to see it different, but for the most part, she did a great job, and I agree with just about everything on here. So let's jump in and go over the Omaha bracket. Up first is number 1 versus 16, so it'll be Nebraska Brewing Company versus Jaipur. And Jaipur is a great Indian restaurant. They have great food, but I don't know if they're going to have a chance against Nebraska Brewing Company. Up next, the 8 seed is Site 1 Brewing down in Midtown, right between Midtown and Downtown. And Scriptown Brewing Company, which is in the Blackstone in Midtown, both do some great beers, and I think that bracket or that matchup is just a complete toss-up. I couldn't tell you which one's going to win. Up next is the 4 seed Infusion Brewing Company versus 13 Viz Major. I don't agree with this one at all. I would put Viz Major at the 4 seed and drop Infusion down to 13. I'm not trying to bag on Infusion or anything, but I enjoy Viz Major so much more. Infusion I thought was really, when they first opened that Benson location and they had their Icebox series, they had some great beers, but then when it just got into all these variations of vanilla bean and a couple other beers, it's just, I don't know. I don't have the same affinity for it that I used to, so definitely would pick Viz Major over Infusion on that one. Next is Monolithic and Brickway, both doing great beers. Monolithic is newer out west, do a lot of great beers. a lot of hazy IPAs, and then just another nice mixture. They have a great menu. And then Brickway Downtown, kind of the same thing, just a little bit different of everything. I think that one might be a toss-up too. I maybe give a slight edge to Monolithic, but I think it's a pretty good toss-up. Next, we have the 6 seed Juke Ale Works versus number 11 Pint 9. I would probably give the edge, to Pint 9. I think Pint 9 just has a little more of a fan base there. Jukes does some great things, and they have a great restaurant, great food, but I think I would probably give the edge to Pint 9 on that one. Next is probably the other one I really disagree with the most. Number 3 Lucky Bucket and number 14 Upstream. And I also think that my opinion of Upstream is quite a bit higher than most people's, and I also think that my opinion of Lucky Bucket is quite a bit lower than most people's. And I'm going to tell you this right now, that's my 2013 version of that. If you would have asked me 5 years ago, yeah, absolutely, I would have put Lucky Bucket up and Upstream down. But I think Lucky Bucket, there's just something not the same there, and I'm just not as big a fan as I used to be. And I think Upstream, the last couple times I've been there, have upped their game. They've done some new things. I think Upstream for a long time just did the same thing, and it was just you went in and they had the same core beers. Now I really think they're branching out, trying different things, and let's face it, Lucky Bucket or Upstream's been around for a long time. They're a cool brewery down in the old market, and I think Lucky Bucket might win that, but I really hope Upstream's the winner in that one. Next is Bearded Brewer, number 7 seed Bearded Brewer and number 10 seed Lumen. Both do great beers. I'm going to say that one's a toss-up too. I think either one of those could take that. And then the last spot, number 2 Cross Strain and number 15 Benson Brewery. I like both of them. I think Cross Strain's going to run away with it. I think Cross Strain just has that. They have such great IPAs, and that's really what people are into right now. And they do a great job promoting them. They have 2 great spaces downtown and then out west at the original brewery, and I think they're gonna run away with it, and rightfully so. They're a great beer. They're doing such great things, but take nothing away from Benson Brewery, because I think they do a lot of nice stuff too. Nice restaurant too. So let's head out to the East region. I don't think I mentioned it yet, but there's also Sarah has a Google map that has all the pins of all the breweries. Most color coded, so the eastern ones are basically going to be from Kearney and Ord east, except for there's one of the 2 breweries in Hastings that are right across the street from each other. One's in the east region, one's in the west region, and again, I think that's just a matter of you have to have 16 in each bracket, so that's where it falls. You really could have shuffled and maybe moved like Ord to the west bracket and then had both Hastings ones in there, but that's not a big deal. So up first in the East region, you have number 1 seed Scratchtown Brewing Company in Ord, Nebraska, and number 16 seed Gottenberg Brewery in Columbus, Nebraska. I think Scratchtown's going to run away with this one. Scratchtown is a great brewery in a cool spot in Nebraska, and then Mike and Caleb, the owners, are just super cool dudes. They get a lot of their beers down here when there's events down here. They come down for those. So cool place, great beer. And I don't know that you can get the Gottenberg Brewery beer outside of Columbus. Not that I've never seen it, so that kind of doesn't help in this bracket challenge here. Up next, number 8 Divots and number 9 Salt Mine. That's the same thing. Divots, I think, is going to run away with this. Divots is, there you can find it easily around the Omaha and Lincoln metro areas. And I don't know that I've ever seen the Salt Mine beer yet, so that could be part of that. Divots has a pretty well-known brewer, Jeremy. So I think there's just a lot of things working against the Salt Mine there. Nothing against their beers. It's just I think that the Divots media presence or kind of well-known is just going to put them out in front. Next, Highway 14 is the 4 seed Lazy Horse. Vineyards Brewery is the 13 seed. I think that one's a toss-up. I don't know a ton about either one of those. Just kind of what I follow on social media. I think that one's a toss-up. Up next is number 5 seed Thunderhead and the 12 seed Johnny Bird. And I think there's just so many people that have a tie. Thunderbird's been around a long time. A lot of people from different parts of Nebraska have a tie to them. So I just think Thunderbird will run away with that one. Next is the Big Hair Brewhouse and Prairie Pride. Big Hair's the 6, Prairie Pride's the 11. I would probably have flipped that one around. Prairie Pride's a great brewery. I have not been to Big Hair. It opened, I think, last year. Haven't been there yet. Prairie Pride out in Grand Island's great. I've stopped out there several times out there when we were doing the Sand Hill Crane photography trips. Cool place, great beers. And you can find their beers around, I've seen them around here in Omaha. Next is number 3, Upper Room versus number 14, Steeple Brewing. I have not been to Upper Room yet. Could be later this month. So we're seeing Upper Room's out in Columbus, Steeple's out in Hastings. Been to Steeple once. It was a cool place. Really crowded when we were there. Had some nice beers. So I think that one's going to be a toss-up. The Fairfield Opera House and 505. Fairfield Opera House is in Fairfield, Nebraska. And then 505 Brewing Company. Fairfield Opera House has been around for a long time. I haven't been there yet. It's just a little bit off the beaten path where I'm close, but not close enough at the right time of day to make a trip down there. So I haven't had theirs yet. 505 is a new brewery in Fremont, opened, I believe, last year. I kind of think that 505 is starting to get some of their beers in Omaha, so that might give them a little bit of an edge. I have not seen Fairfield beers around. And then next, number 2, Heavy Brewing, and number 5, Soaring Wings. I think I'm going to give that one to Heavy Brewing. They've been since they've opened, been extremely popular. I've tried to go there a couple times, and the place has just been wall-to-wall people, and from everything I heard, it's a great beer. I kind of wish Heavy was in the Omaha region instead of the East region for Eastern Nebraska, because it really isn't in Gretna, Nebraska. It's right here in the metro, but again, just kind of getting 16 breweries in each bracket, kind of push them into the East region. So, like I said, I think Scratchtown and Heavy would be the 2 in there that I would pick, to make the finals. And I think that one's a complete toss-up. So I think I said it, but Omaha, Nebraska Brewing, Bearded Brewer, and Cross Strain were my 3 that I think we're going to run away with it. I put the edge to Cross Strain to make the final 4. Scratchtown and Heavy are a toss-up. I hope it's Scratchtown just because I like the dudes, I like the brewery, I like the part of the state. Or's a cool place, so that's what I hope, but you never know. So let's slide over here to the West bracket. And up first, the number 1 seed Kincaider versus the number 16 team. I keep calling it teams because I'm so used to the basketball. 16 seed Second Chapter Brewing. Second Chapter is in Ogallala, Nebraska, and I have not been there yet. And Kincaider is in Broken Bow. Kincaider also has tap rooms in Lincoln and Omaha, and I would just give the edge to them on the fact that their presence in this state, they're all over the place. They have lots of beers. And they have a tap room in Grand Island too, right across the street from Prairie Pride. So I give the edge on that one to Kincaider. Up next is Lost Way and Boss City Brewing. And Boss City Brewing is in a basement of a San Luis Pizza in Sidney, Nebraska, and I have had one of their beers. My mom ate out there and brought a couple beers back for me, so I have tried a couple beers. They were good. That one I don't know. I would say that beers, it's a toss-up, but I think Lost Way has a lot more recognition and more people. So for this bracket, Lost Way would probably pull away with it. The next one is Papa Moon Ciders, which I've never heard of. 4 seed versus 13 seed Max Creek, and I have not heard of either one of those, which is interesting because I thought I knew every brewery. I have a list going of every brewery in the state. I've been to over half the breweries in the state of Nebraska. So to see 2 that not only have I not been to, but I never even heard of, was kind of interesting. So that one, they're both new, both not as well known. So I'm going to say that's a toss-up. Peg Leg Brewing and Bootleg Brewing. Peg Leg is right off the highway in North Platte. I've actually stayed at the hotel right next door to it twice, and I have yet to go there. It's one of those. A lot of the smaller breweries in Western Nebraska have a lot more limited hours than what we're used to here in Eastern Nebraska. So sometimes when I'm passing through, I just my schedule is not on sync with theirs. So I have not been to Peg Leg, but I have been to Bootleggers, and Bootleg Brewing is hands down the coolest located brewery in the state of Nebraska. It's north of Taylor, Nebraska. I believe the directions are you go 2 miles north out of Taylor, look for the windmill. On the windmill, there's a little sign painted that says Bootlegger. You turn and you follow the gravel road for like a mile. You're in the middle of nowhere in the Sandhills of Nebraska. Super cool place, beautiful brewery. They had cabins to stay into. I would give it to Bootlegger just on the location of their brewery alone. So Bootlegger's awesome. And then, but Peg Leg probably has a lot more traffic just because they're right on the interstate, in North Platte. So, up next, Brewery 719 and Canyon Lakes Brewing. Again, both breweries have been around for a little while out in the western part of Nebraska. I would give that one a toss-up. Pals Brewing, Loop Brewing, same thing. Pals is a 3 seed, Loop's a 14 seed. Give that one a toss-up. I have been to Loop, but when I was there, something happened and their brewery was broken, and so I actually had a beer from Omaha in McCook, Nebraska. So, and then next, Flyover Brewing Company, which I'm having tonight, versus Bolo Beer Company. Bolo's in Valentine, and Valentine is just a super cool part of Nebraska. So kind of like Bootleg, I would pick Bolo over Flyover if I had to pick on location. But I think Flyover has a lot more presence across the state of Nebraska, a lot more well known across the state of Nebraska. So probably would give the edge to them. And then the number 2 seed, First Street Brewing, and number 15 seed, Platte Valley Brewing. I would probably give the edge on that one to the number 2 seed, First Street Brewing Company. First Street and Steeple Brewing, you remember Steeple Brewing was in the eastern region, First Street is in the west region, and they're literally on opposite sides of the street about 2 blocks apart. So kind of funny how that shakes out. First Street has some really good beers, nice little brewery downtown Hastings, Nebraska. So I would probably give the edge to them, and you can find the First Street beers pretty much all over the place. So let's, so on the west, Kincaider is probably who was going to win that. That's who I put into the final 4. And then my preferences in both those I would take Bolo or Bootlegger over Kincaider, but they're not nearly as well known as Kincaider. So finally, let's get down to the Lincoln region here, or the capital region as Sarah calls it. Number 1 Zipline Brewing versus number 16 Three Bridges Brewing. Zipline's been around for a long time. Their beers are very well known. They're all over the place. And Three Bridges Brewing I had never heard of, so I had to look that up and add it to my list of breweries to get to, but I would easily give that one to Zipline. Next is Sorrow Cider Company and Code Beer Company. I've seen a few people complain that there's 2 or 3 cider places on here, but to get to a 60-40 team bracket, I think Nebraska is just short on breweries to the point that the 3 or whatever cider companies kind of make up the difference there. Sorrow's doing some great stuff, but I probably would give the edge to Code. Code's probably a little more popular with the beer drinkers around. You can find Code all over the place. I see it. I think it was almost right next to this beer tonight. So, up next, number 4 White Elm and number 13 Backswing. I would easily give that to White Elm, and that's not saying anything about Backswing. I've been to Backswing Brewing Company, right there on the southwest corner of Lincoln. They did some great beers, and I think I liked every single beer I had there. But I just think White Elm is one of those breweries that's just up on the next level and doing so many great things right now that I think they'll easily walk away with this. Up next, Glacial Till, which is another cider place, and Rockhopper Brewing. Rockhoppers in Syracuse, and Glacial Till, I can't remember. I want to say Lincoln, or right outside of Lincoln, but I'd probably give that to Glacial Till, even though it's a cider place. They've been around a lot longer. Rockhopper just opened in the fall, I believe. And one more thing about the ciders is people say they're not beer. And actually, they're very similar. You know, a cider is made with fruit, where a beer is made with grains, but the rest of the process is pretty similar. You know, just like a seltzer. You see seltzers categorized as beer, and, you know, basically instead of using grain or fruit, they're using sugar cane. So it's a very similar process yet again with those. So I think that a lot of times that's why they all get lumped together. In fact, I went to a brewery in Colorado last fall. It said, you know, Beer Works Brewery or whatever, and walked in, they only had ciders, and I was kind of, well, what kind of brewery is this? So after doing a little more reading, I kind of see why they said that, but still disappointed. We actually drank someone else's beer and then moved on to a different place because none of us were really in the mood for a cider or a seltzer. So up next, Cosmic Eye and Catalyst Brewing, and they both have good beers. I think Cosmic Eye just has a lot bigger following, so I would say Cosmic Eye is probably going to get that one there. Next, and Cosmic Eye was a 6, Catalyst was 11. Up next, number 3, Boiler Brewing against number 14, Bottle Rocket Brewing. Boiler's awesome. I think Boiler is one of the best breweries in the state of Nebraska. It's amazing. This Lincoln matchup is going to be a real toss-up because there's a lot of good breweries in Lincoln, but Boiler just does so many great things. I've never had a beer there where I haven't enjoyed it. So Boiler's a really cool location down in the old part of Lincoln, in the boiler room of a building in Lincoln. Cool place, great beer. Next, number 7, Corn Coast, and number 10, Stone Hollow. Corn Coast, if it had been around a year or two longer, would probably be a lot higher seed. They're doing some great things. They're doing some great IPAs right now. I really think Corn Coast will probably walk away with that one. Corn Coast, you're really starting to see a lot around Omaha also. So you have a pretty big following. Number 2, Empyrean, and number 15, Shilling Bridge. Shilling Bridge is a winery that started brewing beer. Empyrean is in Lincoln. Shilling Bridge is in Pawnee City. Both have been around for a long time. Both, have a lot of loyal fans in this state. I do think Empyrean, because it's in Lincoln, a lot more well known. They distribute across the state. I think Empyrean will probably run away with it. Empyrean, if I've never said it on this, the first craft beer I really ever had, and it was explained, about craft beer and this and that. The first craft beer that I really got to know is Empyrean, Third Stone Brown. I was managing a restaurant here in town. We had a broken tap, and no one could fix it. I mean, we had beer tap specialists come in left and right, and no one could fix it. And then one day the brewer someone from Empyrean came in and said, "Hey, if I fix that, will you put my beer on tap?" I said, "Sure," because it's not doing anything else. And fixed it, threw some Third Stone Brown on there, and it's a great beer. It's been around for a long time. Another brown kind of like this. So I think Empyrean will run away with that over Shilling Bridge. I think the Capital bracket is a complete toss-up between Zipline, White Elm, Boiler, and Corn Coast. I think any one of those could win it. I can't even make a prediction on which one it would be. So I think if I had to pick from the breakdown I gave you, my final 4 between Omaha and the East would be probably Cross Strain versus Scratchtown, and then on the right side of the bracket, the West versus Capital would be. West is hard because I want to say Bootleg or Bolo, but I'll say Kincaider versus Boiler, and so my final 4 I think would be Cross Strain versus Boiler, and I couldn't even tell you who would win that. It's there's too many good beers going on in this state to play favorites or to try to pick one. So, you could have any of these beers and try any of these breweries and find a winner. I always say that every single brewery does at least one beer really well. So if you enjoy all the different styles of beer, you could head to any one of these breweries and find a good beer that you would be happy to drink. If you're really I won't want to say picky. Picky's not the right word, but if you only enjoy like one or two styles of beer, then you might not enjoy some of these as much as the other. But I like to mix it up. I don't want to drink too many IPAs or too many brown ales or stouts. I like to rotate through them and try different things. So I always can go to a brewery and find something I really like. So this is really cool. I'm glad Sarah did this. It was kind of fun to see. Like I said, I think she did a really good job seating. There's a couple I don't agree with, but I also think that her seating on some of them are probably closer to the real life opinion than my opinion. But overall, great bracket, and I'm looking forward. I do have my picks in for the first round. I don't. Let's go. All right, so today's the 14th. You got 2 more days after today. The first round is the 13th through the 16th. The second round is the 17th through the 20th. Sweet 16 is the 20th through the 22nd. Elite 8 is the 22nd through the 25th. Final 4 is the 25th through the 29th, and the champion is the 29th through the 3rd. So, like I said, Cross Strain versus Boiler is my prediction for the championship, but we'll see what happens. So fun. Go to sarahbakerhansen.com. She does a great job. You can find this beer bracket there, and then as most of you know, I'm always doing stuff with Grow Omaha, and the Grow Omaha has a newsletter. It comes out every Thursday. Every other Thursday, Sarah puts a food review out for Grow Omaha, and it is in our Grow Omaha newsletter. So she does a lot of great stuff, and this was kind of fun doing a different Beer with Brad, the special bonus episode, the beer bracket bonus. It was kind of hard. I didn't know if, I saw this come out and it's like, well, do I wait and cover it in April? But then it's old news and it would basically be over. And then do I call it episode 26 or do I just call it a bonus episode? So that's why I went with the bonus episode, and yeah, so. Well, I hope everyone's enjoying their brown rusty rivet from Flyover Brewing Company, and hope you're all enjoying your late winter, early spring. One of these days it's going to get warm. I'm counting down the seconds until I head out to my Sandhill Crane photography trip. I just ordered a giant lens to go on that trip today, so looking forward to that trip a lot. Hopefully the weather gets a little bit better and we have some good light. Fingers crossed. Right now the forecast is looking pretty good. So, well, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to go check out sarahbakerhansen.com and fill out your beer bracket. But we'll see you again in a couple weeks for a regular episode of Beer with Brad.